Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me today to preview Sunday night's primetime game, Sunday Night Football on NBC/Peacock/ wherever else you could get it. The 2-4 Pittsburgh Steelers against the 3-3 Miami Dolphins is a one Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on, my friend? Looks like you're doing a little house cleaning over there.
I'm doing a little office destroying is actually what I'm doing. I'm reorganizing everything, and at some point I'll be done, and then it'll look cleaner. Right now it's a giant mess. So I apologize to all our friendly watchers that they have to look at my messy office, but
Bobblehead's back there.
I have to bring this up.
Bobblehead.
What the hell is going on with this creepy bobblehead? I haven't been on all the pregames, right? So he hasn't gotten to make his call in every pregame, but I can tell you that he has lost once.
I know, it's a better track record than most of us, man. I don't know, I was just laughing because it's like, unlike the usual desk mess that you might see, like I know some of my stuff is like hidden over here. I got like a pile that's off camera here. But mine's like a pile of like maybe like bills and other letters and like contracts or whatever might be sitting over here. And then we take a look at over your desk and there's like about 8 or 9 terrible towels and jerseys, and it's crazy. It reminds me of the time when you were cleaning house on moving all the helmets around, and you just had like stacks of helmets.
Yep.
It's pretty funny stuff, man. It's not the usual for I think most people when they're thinking about like, oh, well, it's a desk, the desk area. It's just an organized mess. I think maybe, I don't know. I can't.
Right now, no. Right now it is extremely disorganized, and I know that's why everybody tuned in for me to. This is really not Steel City Underground right now. This is closet helpers or desktop organizers or us. But
hoarders.
It's
hoarders for sure, man.
Yeah.
I know you've got a lot of stuff. I do too, and you can't always see everything on camera. And there's so much more stuff. Like I don't even have room to put it. You know what I mean? So it's like I rotate some things around. Of course, the pink towel's up now for the month of October, and Crucial Catch campaign and early detection, breast cancer awareness, or I think almost just about everything's kind of lumped into that now. They kind of throw a whole bunch of different shade purples, prostate cancer, and everything like that. And I'm a big supporter of that. I'm a big coach in girls soccer team, Brian, and the younger girls, like they're under 10, so that's what my daughter's age is. And the one girl asked why I had a pink whistle, and it was from going back to my days officiating. It was one of the pink things I could carry around in order to the raise awareness thing, just like the football players do. Pink cleats, pink towels, pink gloves, whatever the accents and stuff like that. So my mother is an early survivor as well, and my dad's actually a lung cancer survivor for different reasons. He was a lifelong smoker going back to working in the mills and stuff. So just kind of like the PSA to throw out there, because I don't think we really mention it. Of course, the Hayward House is doing a lot of the fundraising stuff with that as well. So go check that out. They also have the t-shirts with Pittsburgh Stronger Than Cancer. Maybe I might not have mine before the end of October, but we'll see what happens here. So just a little plug for them. I know they didn't ask for it or anything, but off the top of my head, hey, if you're looking for something to donate to or a good cause, go check that out. And now we're into uncharted waters with this pregame, because if this were a week ago, and it's not, now the Steelers have won. They've won using 2 different quarterbacks, and we don't know who the quarterback's going to be on Sunday. We thought immediately after this that there's no way in hell that Kenny Pickett's got a chance to play, because they're going to go to Miami, where all of this new concussion protocol turnover and changes originated with Tua Tagovailoa, who is going to be activated for this game. Announced, I think, last week that they were attempting to get him on the field, unless there's some setback we don't know of. He should be out there. So it could still be Mitch Trubisky, but we hear in Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday that nope, Kenny Pickett's going to take all the full reps. It is basically like, nope, Kenny Pickett's my quarterback and he's cleared to practice, and he had a full practice yesterday on Wednesday. And unless there's any setbacks, we'll continue to practice, but that's practice. He still has to be cleared to play in the game. So it seems like a very awkward approach that if you're in Mike Tomlin's position and you're not expecting Kenny Pickett to be cleared, you would probably have Mitchell Trubisky doing something out there, and it doesn't appear that's going to be the case.
No, it does not appear to be the case. I don't know. I don't know what they know, obviously, but you would assume that they're going to operate under the assumption that he is going to be cleared to play. And if that's the case, then they're going the path that they want to go. If they had any inkling that they thought he was not going to be cleared to play, then I think Mitch would be getting those reps. And I am at the point where, this is what they do, right? This is who the Steelers are. Once they make a decision, they go down that path. So there's not going to be a quarterback controversy. There's not going to be a question of who's the starter until Kenny loses the job based on performance, which we assume he won't. But if that were the case, he's the starter. He won the job. Mitch underperformed. Kenny performed. It's Kenny's job to lose now. So I don't, it doesn't surprise me that they're going this route, other than the fact that everybody is super ultra cautious about concussions. Pat had a concussion. He didn't play last week. He's maybe going to be activated this week. That will help them for sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, while you're with me here, let's take a look and see if I can pull up some of our early injury report as we have them. Of course, the Steelers, once again, for Wednesday practices, they have the full Dolphins report on their website. And you have to scrape this stuff off of Twitter. And even in that case, they just put it on the website. We got it direct from the Steelers PR department. Couple of names on here, but it looks like they're getting back to full health. Whoever this Kenny Pickett guy is with only one T in his name was a full participant in practice. Maybe that's a way to throw everyone off, just like how Mason Rudolph was the backup quarterback over Kenny on the depth chart. But full participant even in the concussion protocol. Cam Sutton, Ahkello Witherspoon, they're both limited with hamstrings. Levi Wallace, full participant, also concussion protocol, looking to come out of that. They still have limited participation with Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's making his first return trip since being traded from the Miami Dolphins. So this is his first time playing in Miami since being traded to the Steelers. That's kind of a neat tidbit. Miles Jack showed up on here with an ankle, probably some dings and dents from the game. We know Mason Cole's been playing with that foot/ankle. He was limited. James Daniels now shows up limited. So a few offensive line injuries. Steven Sims with a hamstring as well. He did not practice. Pat Freiermuth, again, concussion protocol, but full participant, as you had mentioned. Chris Wormley now limited with the ankle. Larry Ogunjobi now with the knee, not his back, with the DNP. But Larry seems like the kind of guy that's a warrior and is going to play pretty much no matter what. Yeah, you have to really hold that guy back to not play. So it looks like in some cases the Steelers are kind of coming back to full strength, and in some cases they are regressing here, like Miles Jack and things like that. So on the other side of things, we may as well look at the Dolphins one while we've got it in our craniums here. Teron Armstead was a DNP with the toe, but same thing. I would anticipate him being available. Of course, check out the cheat sheet on podcast on Friday afternoon to get the full updates of the rest of the injury reports. Let's see. Keon Crossan, a DNP with the knees. Defensive back Melvin Ingram, veteran day arrest. Not that matters much to us. I'm sorry. And Trey Flowers going on injured reserve probably doesn't help Melvin Ingram's case as far as pass rushing as it is. Also doesn't help that Emmanuel Ogbah here, you may remember him from the Cleveland Browns for many years on the other side of the field. He was also DNP with the back. Christian Wilkins, DNP with the hand. So they got a lot of guys along this defensive front that are dinged up. Jerome Baker, limited with a hip. Xavier Howard was a Veterans Day arrest. Kader Kahu, he doesn't play a whole lot. Raheem Mostert, their leading rusher, was limited with a hand. Zach Seiler, hand limited. Durham Smythe, second tight end number 2 there, hamstring limited. Skylar Thompson, third string quarterback. Also, every quarterback they have has been hit and dinged this season. So he shows up limited. Jalen Waddle with the shoulder limited. And then they got full participation out of Elijah Campbell, Tanner Connor. Greg Little is one of their starting offensive tackles. So when I look at all of the injuries, I go back and forth. I take a look at, the Dolphins are pretty dinged up along their offensive line. The Steelers dinged up on their defensive line. And then you flip it the other way around. That looks like it's like both sets of defensive and offensive lines have their case of injuries and things that they're going to have to play through here in prime time, with quarterbacks both coming out of a concussion protocol. Just makes for an interesting story.
I mean, this is one of those times where it literally is a benefit for both of them and everybody that this is a Sunday night game, right? You get that little bit of extra time before the game happens, just to keep that recovery process going. We're talking a lot of stuff about here, but we also have to, just face the facts of where they're going and what they tend to do when they go. Miami hasn't always been the most favorable spot for the Steelers to play. On the upside, this is a night game, so it's not, you don't have that same, you remember several years ago where every time they'd go to Florida, they'd make them wear the black uniforms so that they would sweat more.
Yeah, this is different now too.
Different.
Yeah, and I had thought I was starting to plan to wear black. We were talking about this on Monday, and then they're going to wear throwback jerseys, but they're going to wear the teal in honor, I think, 50 years of the 1972 undefeated perfect season Miami Dolphins, which coincidentally we kept saying no name defense last week with the Steelers and their secondary, and they're going to be honoring the actual no name defense along with a lot of the surviving players of that perfect season who still haven't been able to pop the champagne just yet, because the Eagles are looming next week and they're still the only unbeaten team. But I hadn't realized that on Monday. I was thinking in terms of, they're going to, Southern Florida, and they're going to be wearing black and cooking in the black, even though it's still going to be like 75 degrees or something probably at kickoff. I mean, the sun goes down a little bit sooner now because we're starting to get
everybody will be in sweaters there.
Yeah.
They'll all have winter coats on at 75 degrees.
And here I am. I'm thinking, I'm like, well, Brian, you're going down too. I'm thinking I'm going to have to wear like the Nike thermal jogging pants or whatever. And you've got a hoodie on or like a zippered fleece or whatever. And then I'm going to have to check into my hotel and take all of that stuff off and put on shorts to go to the game. And there's going to be people looking at you sideways. You're going to have the puffer jackets or the vests, the bubble vests on. And oh man, they're going to look and say, hey, there's the snowbirds, but yeah, there's a little bit of truth to that. But the Steelers should be wearing the away whites this time, since the Dolphins will be wearing a solid color jersey, as is pretty much customary. I wish the NFL would be a little better in publishing this information. You know what I mean? Like, you could pretty much, you could find this in other sports, what these teams are going to wear, and they should know that. They probably should know this for the entire season already. Like, we should know that the Steelers should be wearing color rush jerseys Sunday night against the Bengals. It hasn't been announced, but I can almost 99% guarantee you that would probably be the game they would wear it for. I think they're considering wearing the throwback block numbers when they play the Raiders for the anniversary.
That would be a good choice
of the Immaculate Reception. So on Christmas Eve. So that's just a little pet peeve that I have, going through this. It's like, now what jersey do I wear out of the closet? Because I'd like to match the team. I'm going to have to wear a road white. And my Kenny Pickett jersey is a home jersey. So Minka's a home jersey. Minka was the obvious choice if they were going to wear the black jerseys on the road here in Miami. So I'm going to have to go back to the lab because TJ Watt's still on IR. And I'm like, do I wear a TJ jersey or do I go with the grown ass man? I'll have to see. We'll have to see. So I don't.
Well, I don't have any away jerseys. I don't like the white jerseys, so I don't have any. So I'll be wearing black.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way I am. Do you have any? You have a color rush jersey though, don't you?
I do have color rush jerseys.
Okay,
I have block number jerseys. I just only have black ones.
I hear you on that, man. I don't know. Like, they could do something different, but I guess they have to. I'm trying to think. Is there any NFL teams that don't have a white jersey? I think everybody has a white alternate. The fancy thing now is that everybody wants to wear a black alternate, like a third jersey or something that's like a black. or the monochrome thing that the Bengals were doing completely like white and black, no orange, no color, no whatever that they thought they were doing, the snow leopard, tiger, whatever,
Whatever.
kitty cat, whatever thing that they were doing.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, just getting back to this, let's take the Dolphins offense against the Steelers D. Raheem Mostert, he leads this team. I had it here. 71 rushes, 309 yards. Not necessarily numbers that are lighting up the board, but it is a 4.4 average. And Chase Edmonds, for all intents and purposes, I think was meant to be like maybe the top guy, or they were going to have a split, like kind of like a committee. But he's been banged up and hasn't been totally 100% available for this team through the first 6 games of the season. He has 31 carries for 89 yards. He has 2 touchdowns on the ground to Mostert's 1. Both guys have been used in the pass game sparingly. 8 catches for 64 for Mostert, and then 10 for 96 and a touchdown by Edmonds. But for all intents and purposes, this isn't a team that runs the ball down your throat. They are, let me see here. They're 28th. Or no, I'm sorry. The Steelers are 28th. The Dolphins are 30th in rushing offense, but they are second in passing offense, and that's because they have a plethora of weapons. They're also 17th in points scored per game offensively, but they are -5 in the takeaway giveaway. They're near the bottom of the league. They've given the ball away enough times in the air and whatnot. Tagovailoa has had 3 interceptions, as has Teddy Bridgewater. And it's a lot scarier because, Tua threw for over 1,000 yards in 4 games with some limited participation there, and has had 8 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He's completing almost 70% of his passes. He's been pretty sharp. Whereas Teddy Bridgewater is 3-3, a touchdown to interception ratio, 522 yards, 61.7 completed. And then Skylar Thompson is Skylar Thompson. It's not somebody that you actually thought was ever going to get on the field there, but they have a number of weapons. You got Tyreek Hill, who was traded there this offseason. And it makes me wonder how the Steelers are going to slow him down. Quick slants, these things that come across the middle of the field where you end up with a linebacker like Devin Bush or Robert Spillane on somebody. They could totally get eaten alive here, and this is why it's so important. You saw Terrell Edmonds with a big game last week. You get Micah back. You get your other corners back. Maybe they just put a man on him like Cam Sutton and let him follow him around. I don't know exactly what you do, but he's got already 50 receptions for 701 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he had over 100 last week. Let me see. I had the actual number. Let's see. Tyreek Hill, 12 catches, 177 yards. So well over 100. Yeah. Lighten up the scoreboard despite them losing 3 in a row. And of course, there's Jalen Waddle. There's Mike Gesicki, the tight end. They've got a number of different options to go to in the pass game. So after watching what Buffalo did and then what the Buccaneers did not, I don't know what to expect from the Steelers defense.
It's, look, first, let me give some credit to Mike Tomlin and the coaching team, as well as the players last week. That was a prepared team. That was a team that had a plan. They did a great job of confusing, and I just can't give Tom Brady the credit that he deserves, so I'm not going to because I hate him. But of confusing Tom Brady, he was confused. And whether or not Ben Roethlisberger is correct and Tom Brady's sort of checked out, I don't care. He's still Tom Brady. He still has the reputation that he has, and he is still, generally speaking, been a nightmare for us. So having him have that kind of game was fantastic, right? They deserve a lot of credit for being essentially a handicapped squad that was able to come through. Mitch deserves a lot of credit for coming in and having the wherewithal to say, I don't care, I'm just going to go, right? All the jitters or whatever you want to call it, all the hesitancy that he showed in every game he played, he did not really show in that game. And maybe that's just the pressure of coming in and knowing you're not the starter. So now you got nothing to lose, right? But, great. Chase Claypool has a great comeback game. Maybe he's starting to turn things around. All encouraging signs, right? That being said, the Miami offense scares me against our Steelers defense as it stands right now. Not because of the run game, but because of the pass game. We have not been great at getting pressure since TJ got hurt. Alex Highsmith has done some nice things. Cam is Cam. Larry Ogunjobi has gotten some pressures, but we have not been consistently getting home. I don't remember up until last week. Well, did we sack Brady? I don't remember if we sacked him officially or not.
Yeah, officially. In fact, I think they got 2 officially.
Okay. But prior to that, I think we had 3 sacks the first game with TJ, and then since then had 3? That's a concern. You got a mobile quarterback here that could cause them difficulties. You've got fast receivers, and the one thing that I like Levi Wallace. I liked the pickup. I love Minka. And whoever's going to play the other corner is whoever's going to play the other corner, whether it's Cam Sutton, whether it's one of the nameless group that played last week. We're not super fast. We're not slow, but we got to play smart, right? We need that complementary football to be successful. We need pressure to get there so that, they don't have a chance to just sit back and wait. Because that helps the DBs cover, right? And we need the ball to come out before they've had a chance to break away from the coverage, and give our guys a chance to break up passes and defend the ball. This team just scares me from the standpoint of speed. If we cannot get pressure on Tua, these receivers are going to eat our secondary up.
I don't disagree with that. I think the interesting thing is that, we're not talking about brand new head coach Mike McDaniels, right? And we also got something else or Mike McDaniel, not McDaniels, like Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Yeah,
well, Mike, Josh, who cares?
They're interchangeable. They're related, just like my family. And my great grandparents went through Ellis Island and chopped some letters off the last name, whatever. So anyways, and which is actually true, by the way. It might have been Kuzmen's that I'm related to still, even though it's not the same last name. Anyways, fun fact from the 53andMe or whatever you call that stuff, the ancestry.com. But Mike McDaniel's new there, and I don't think he prefers that Tua runs around. I think he wants Tua to remain like more of a pocket quarterback. And that is part of where the success is, because Tua has 1 yard rushing so far this year. And also to keep his head on his shoulders, all kidding and joking aside, and protect him, you may have more of that in this game. But
well, let me be clear. Yeah, when I say mobile, it's not about running the ball always. Mobile just means evasive in this case.
That's what I've been saying for the whole offseason up through everyone, who's going to replace Big Ben? Well, they said they're going to get a mobile quarterback. So that means you got to get Mariota, who runs around like a chicken with his head cut off. And it's like, no. Or Mitch doing the same thing. And it's like, no. But
I'd have to ease off on that Mariota criticism. He's got Atlanta playing pretty daggone well.
He's back with his original offensive coordinator. I think they've taken some people by surprise. He'll turn into a pumpkin soon enough. I'll tell you that. And the Steelers will get after him pretty good once they're back to full health. I have no doubts about that. If they were playing them this week, I'd probably have similar concerns, though. Although I'd be like, who's their wide receiver one? Drake London, right? But anyway, aside from the Falcons, but the Dolphins, sticking with the Dolphins, it's like, it's kind of an interesting point to make, because you have like the parallels that are going to be drawn between Tua and then Kenny Pickett being a new quarterback, being a first-round quarterback, being the top of his class, taken, et cetera, et cetera. And Kenny will take off with his feet here or there. I hope that people are paying attention, this being a primetime game. If another cheap hit comes in on one of these quarterbacks who takes a little bit of a run, they're teabagging Mitch Trubisky and not getting a call there, or somebody taking a shot at Kenny on the ground. It's like, yo, this isn't Ben Roethlisberger anymore back there. Can we please? It's just like Steelers quarterbacks get like no respect like that. But if you sneeze on Tom Brady,
well, I'm with you on the hit on Kenny when he went to slide. I'm 100% with you. I don't care about the other one. The other one, yes, Tom Brady gets that call, but actually nobody should get that call, because that was just what it was.
Yeah, but you know what? It's extracurricular that we've seen many times in many different games. People get called for or don't get called for. Scott Novak is the referee for this game, so I don't have much of an opinion on him. But we finally had some reasons to say the refs stink last week.
I do. What? Refs stink. I don't care. I don't know this guy at all. The refs just flat out stink, so he stinks.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But anyways, like that's what you're saying. It's like, you know, if you give Tua all day back there, he doesn't need all day when his guys are lightning quick. And if he's being decisive and he's being now coached and taught to be in certain positions to protect his weaknesses, but who better to know his weaknesses than his former head coach who just happens to be on the Steelers defensive staff right now? And we saw some imprints of that all last week. And Brian, I was talking about this too. And I know officially they don't necessarily put it in like, you know, the Pro Football Focus type of snap things and all these different like analytics programs that are out there. But the Steelers were playing some 4-3 for all intents and purposes. They were playing 4-3 defense to make sure that the Buccaneers could not run. And it was the only way without any corners on their roster, bunch of no names, that they could also cover. They might start going to this a little more even without TJ, because I felt like they got more pressure. They were able to disguise some of the blitzes a lot more. And this also mitigates the amount of ground that a Robert Spillane, Miles Jack, and or Devin Bush has to go sideline to sideline. You are cutting the middle of the field in thirds. And
instead of half,
yeah, instead of in half. And I know it seems like sacrilege, but when they play base 3-4, what are they playing? Like 10% of a game, 15% of the game, and they're still using it a little bit. But now instead of just totally nickel and leaving like one or two linebackers in there, now I think now it all depends on if they get DeMonte Casey back into this mix too, and some of their defensive backs get healthy, as we've been talking about, maybe even Witherspoon. Some of those things might change, but I liked that. We saw some zero blitz type concepts as well. Not a bunch of them, maybe 2 or 3, but it was enough to make Tom Brady go, oh, you know, it's not like he was looking at the old Dick LeBeau or Keith Butler defense and knew, oh, I'm going here.
Did not know what he was seeing at times.
No,
absolutely.
And that's Tom Brady. And you could confuse Tua, who's going to be rusty. They're going to have to get him in rhythm. He has not played in like a month. So he is, you know, he's missed better portions. I know he's played in 4 games, but he's missed the last 2 or so and portions of the other ones. And who knows? I don't know. We always talk about this with like Mason. It's like, did he come back and started playing scared a little bit and, you know, a little more protective of his body? So these are things I think the Steelers can work on. I don't know that they're at a 100% disadvantage. Tyreek Hill's going to probably eat, but they've shut him down before with like Ross Cockrell and Artie Burns. So you can't necessarily say that too.
They're going to find ways to try and take as much away as they can. Again, it's about the complementary nature of playing defense. If the two pieces of the puzzle play well together, I think they're okay. But if pressure fails or if coverage breaks down early, both of those things are going to cause real problems with this group. You know, you have to hope too his rhythm is off. You have to hope his timing is off from missing some games. And if that's the case, we just cannot have breakdowns. They are not in a position still at this point where they can play mistake prone football. It has to be nearly mistake free.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just showing Alex Highsmith, sacks leader again. Don't ask me how that happens, where it feels like you get no pressure. We're just talking about, and then he's atop the charts, you know, and he's getting it done. And he had
a great hit on Brady. It was fantastic. I loved it. I wanted him to do it again. Knock that guy's head off.
I was going to say, is there a hit on Brady that you don't like? You know,
no, but that one was that. You remember when we were talking? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even on the show. We were talking about nobody ever just gets a clean pop on him where he just does one of these.
I know.
And there it was. I was like, that's what I want to see.
Well, that's some of the attitude that you have to have. They made sure in all these games against Baltimore recently, what did they do? Somebody gets a hand on Lamar Jackson. They have to touch him physically every single play. It seems like that is the directive on defense. Somebody, every snap, put a hand on Lamar Jackson, no matter what. And, you know, got to watch out for any kind of late hit calls or anything like that. But I think as long as they don't get eaten alive by the other part of the supporting cast, Guy Sickie as a tight end, you got Terrell Edmonds like lining up everywhere. He's probably going to shut him down because Guy Sickie does disappear in games. he was a guy that was like on their trading block earlier, like the constantly off season training camp. There was always discussion as to whether or not he was still going to be a member of this team. I think Jalen Waddle is the one. We can't have anybody fall asleep, like if Levi Wallace or Witherspoon hasn't played in a few games. They came back against the Baltimore Ravens and got a victory, or else they would have dropped the last four, or 4 out of 5 at least. They won 3 in a row to start, 20-7 over the Patriots, 42-38 over the Ravens in Baltimore, 21-19 in a closer scoring game with the Buffalo Bills. And then those were all victories. And then they lost 27-15 to the Bengals, got smacked in New York 40-17 by the Jets right after the Steelers had lost to the Jets. And the Jets are streaking. So you never know. Jets might be a lot better than we get credit for. Look at that game
a whole lot different at this point.
Yeah.
You go to Lambeau Field and you beat up on the Packers.
Still a winnable game, but exactly that. And then last week lost 24-16 to the Vikings, but that's been without Tua. But even with Tua, and you go back to the Bills, and I know the Bills, you take all of these games out, they scored 42 on the Ravens. The rest of this, they're struggling to get 20 points, just like the Steelers had been. So I do think when you flip sides of the ball, there's certainly an area for, I do believe Kenny Pickett will play. It didn't look like what happened to him was super serious at that time, but more precautionary. Like there's just no way that they're ever going to put him back on the field within this same game. It's just not going to happen with the way the world is right now with the National Football League and the safety protocols, right? I hate to be a broken record, but it has to be said, So in that case, it's like even the way Mitch played, I just don't think you get more than a half of what Mitch did there. It seems like...
Well, I've said this before. I'll say it again. You get one drive from Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, I wouldn't even go that far. I think
usually per game, you get like this one solid drive, and then everything else is hit or miss, right? It's just hit or miss. It's the consistency. Look, I think Kenny is going to start too. I hope Kenny starts, and it's not that I hate Mitch. I was supporting Mitch throughout most of this, but I don't know how he's going to play as a starter. If he plays the way he played as a guy coming off the bench with nothing to lose, fine. But if he plays the way he had played, worrying about who's sitting over his shoulder, then that's a problem, because I think that was part of what was causing him issues early in the season. He knew he was on, so to speak, a timetable. And at some point he was going to lose that gig. And the question was, that made him overly cautious. He was not the same guy in the second half of that game as he had been most of the rest of the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally with you on that, without a doubt. And he was just locked in. And I think he's better, like, I don't want to say freelancing because there's still plays that are called, but it's almost like backyard football. It's in those 4-minute drills. It's in those 2-minute drills where he truly excels. And the amount of pressure, I mean, he got the ball there. The Steelers are fortunate, though, that he was not only voted a team captain, but that also means that he spent so much time with this offense that he just jumps right in and he has some sort of rapport with everyone. So maybe the drop off, I almost joked around that he needed to see how Kenny did it to say, oh, this is how this is supposed to work. Because I still will maintain that throw to Chase Claypool. Like, much like Kenny throwing to Najee Harris. Najee didn't even break off tackle yet when that ball was thrown. And it's like, boom. You know what I mean? And it was very much the same thing with Mitch finding Chase Claypool in the end zone. I almost thought the pass would have got picked, but he actually had some anticipation, and that's what had been missing. But I think if you ask him to do that for an entire game, and he's got to stand tall in the pocket, he does, and pass the first progression. It's like a panic factor. It's like there's a timer in his head that says, okay, let's run. Wait, maybe I shouldn't. Coaches told me not to do that. Boom, sacked, or something dumb like that. And that's been my bone of contention with them all along.
And for me, it's the vision. He read progressions in that second half of that game. He did not just read once and bail. Right? Okay, that guy's not open. I'm gonna drop it out to whoever my drop off is, or I'm gonna tuck it and run. Whatever. Mm-hmm. He read progressions the same way Kenny has been reading progressions, going through and checking options to see where and what I can do. That was better in the second half of that game. Like, the Miami defense, depending on who can play, right? And how many of their starters are there. This is a defense that's a solid defense. It's not the Bills defense, but it's a solid defense. At the same time, again, yeah, they beat the Bills. And in my mind, whether it's because the Bills had an off game, yes, it's true. Any given Sunday, any team can beat any other team. But the Bills, in my view, are the best team in the league, and they managed to hold that offense to under 20 points. So this is not a bad defense, is what I'm getting at. And I think if they want to win this game, they have a much better chance of winning it with Kenny than they do with Mitch. But we just have to see what happens. And I just don't know. You know what I mean? I was excited at watching the last game when we'd come out and in first down, it was not a quick handoff to Najee, or second down. There was a little more creativity in the offense, and that needs to stay happening, right? They need to accept that they are not at this point in time a team that can just grind it. I know we said at the beginning of the year, that's what they need to be, but they just aren't. And they need to accept the limitations and play within the limitations of the guys that they have. And the run game will open up if the pass game forces it to open up. Once you have to respect the pass, they'll be able to run the ball a little better. And then once they get better at running the ball, then the pass game, it all combines together. I just don't want to see them go back to that vanilla crap they were doing before.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Another thing just to say, any given Sunday, the Buffalo Bills lost both of their safeties for that game too, which, then they were able to adjust after that. It's not like, they'd already adjusted by the time they played the Steelers, and they knew they could just throttle them with their offense. I don't see the Dolphins doing the same exact type of thing. I could have seen Tom Brady maybe doing the same thing. So that's what gives me a little more hope here. But the bugaboo always is like, hey, they're playing in Florida, but at least it's a night game. So maybe it's not the travel. Maybe the heat doesn't get to them. But offensively, let's see if Najee, he looked a little more decisive, I think, out there, a little more fluid.
Had some nice runs in the last game.
Without the plate in his foot, got him involved a little in the passing game. George Pickens, people are going to be watching him as a wide receiver one, just like you were saying. They were blanketed him, especially after Steve Sims had that big, long return. Now, Steve Sims isn't available. And then you got to go back to Gunner and hope Gunner doesn't make any mistakes. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's like we said, if you play special teams, you're a guy who kicks the ball. If you're also the guy who handles them off of said kicks, you have a very short window of opportunity in the NFL before you're on the hot seat or completely out of the league. I had another point to make on that with special teams stuff too, but I forgot. I'll jump back over to, there's people that are always on like Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool. What is all the nonsense? I woke up today and all I see all over Twitter, all over Facebook, there's people that are talking about trade deadlines and Steelers being, why would you trade Chase Claypool? What is he, 6-something, 2-something, like tight end sized wide receiver, capable of playing in the slot, capable of being a Deebo Samuel, former second-round pick that still is under contract not only through this year, but next. He's on a rookie contract. And people are like, well, if you could get a third for him, what are you going to do with that third-round pick? Who's going to be your next wide receiver?
You don't.
I know.
You don't trade Chase Claypool for a third-round pick. If
not this year.
You trade anybody on this team, period, except for maybe Kenny Pickett at this point, if you're getting double value, right? Look, the Steelers are definitely in need of continuing to rebuild their pieces, right? They have holes. There's no question about them. They have things that they need to address in the draft. They need draft capital to do that. But they also, as you said, Chase Claypool's on a rookie contract. You generally don't trade somebody on a rookie contract. When you do is when you've gotten a ridiculous deal. Somebody wants to give you a 1, absurd. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. But if somebody wanted to give you a 1 for Chase Claypool, you take it.
Yeah.
Because it's absurd value. But otherwise, no, because he is a valuable component in your team. He looks like maybe he's starting to come out of whatever funk he was in. Although, look, I'll be fair, based on what he did last year, he'd have a game like this and then he'd vanish. And then he'd have a game like this and then he'd vanish. If he can start to be consistent as a receiver, you got a weapon there, and you don't get rid of that weapon, right? And I know, I get it. They've had a good history of drafting wide receivers, but no. Again, at this point in the season, the reason you're trading somebody is because somebody's desperate. And if somebody's desperate, you take advantage of that desperation. You go in with a killer instinct and you go, give me your 1 and your 3 and your 5, and that's it. And then I want buy ones back, and I want this. And you do draft day on them.
Yeah, I mean, the movie Draft Day, of course, Brian's annual tradition of before the NFL draft. It's just it's absurd to me because there's like some narrative out here about like the regression, and I've talked about Claypool. I don't even know how many times he has had. Let me see, 62 receptions, 873 yards his rookie year, and then 59 for 860. So he's still in the same ballpark of like 60-ish receptions, 860, 70 yards. And you take a look at this season, he's on pace for 65 and 638. So his yardage is down, which is a byproduct of the offense stinking and Mitch Trubisky throwing for 5 and 5.5 per attempt. But, you take over the course of the season just so far, he's in about that 4 reception, 37.5 yards kind of area. But he's on pace for 65 catches this year, which is right where he has been.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you can project anything with this offense right now, and here's why. The first 4 games, they were just flat out bad, right? And as they grow into what they're doing, you're going to see receivers' numbers get better. You're going to see the yards per pass attempt get higher. They're going to start getting more yak. All those things are going to happen as the offense matures. It's still a young group playing together really as a unit for the first time. They have to learn each other's ins and outs. The offensive line looks like it's starting to coalesce and play well together. The receivers, I still have some issues with the receiver group as a whole. But as they start to learn and understand better, hopefully they improve. And then you already have an up level with your quarterback play. So you put Kenny in there. All of a sudden, you've got the guy you're showing right there, George Pickens. That's a guy who can strike fear into the other team. And as soon as that starts to happen, if he can start to prove he can beat double teams and he can get open when they are focusing on him, all of a sudden, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool become much more useful and much more effective because they are not being as targeted, right? Now that you don't have you have this concern with that guy over there instead of them being able to focus on Deontay or focus on Chase. I think it's fair to say that the offense will improve. And forget about who's calling the plays. I don't have a problem right now with Canada calling plays. I thought he did a better job in the last game. But, it will get better. And as it gets better, those numbers will go up. So that's why I'm saying I think you're seeing the downtrend right now, right? This is the low end of what they can do. I think as the season progresses, they're going to start to bump those numbers up, and you're going to see some people approach 1,000 yards, approach 100 catches, and probably shut a lot of people up.
No, I'm 100% with you. And just to finish my stats whoring here, if you looked at Chase Claypool's numbers last season, and I took for basically the Seattle game on, because I threw out like a 9-catch, 96-yard game against the Bengals, for example. But those other games, 3 for 45, 3 for 75 for 130. So I took some of the larger ones out and just took 11 games at the tail end of the season, 39 catches, 519 yards. Well, he averages out to 3.5 per game and 47.2, right? And his yards per attempt is, let me see, or his yards per, it's per target, which is 70 targets. It's kind of off, but his yards per reception, I think, ends up being 13.3 and target 7.41. He's right on the money there. He's in the same area. It's 6.25 per target, 9.7. The yardage is down, but he's still averaging an uptick in receptions at 3.8, just a small uptick, 37 and a half. You're talking about 5 to 10 yards per game on an average on just the 6 games thus far. It's not really outside of what he does. It's 3 to 5 catches. It's 40 to 60 yards. He's not been anything more or anything less. And I don't understand where it's almost like the folks that are like, they should have re-signed James Washington. I'm like, why? James Washington, he was like a jack of all trades, master of none. You really wanted him to win some of the combat catches, but it never seemed like he ever got open and everything was a combat catch. It just didn't have the straight line speed. He didn't have the route tree, and that's why he had difficulty getting on the field. And they continued to draft other wide receivers. That's just the fact of the matter. There, it's like the same thing that happened to Sammy Coates, and that happens. And we fall in love with some of these players, and when we do, we make excuses for some and not the others. Will the Steelers miss Chase Claypool at some point? I don't know. It's not somebody I think will end up with a second contract unless it's a hometown deal or his numbers pop off the page and somebody offers him a hell of a lot more money somewhere else. That's where it'd be. But people are talking as though this is a contract season for him. This is his 3rd year in the NFL. He's still got another year on his rookie deal. Let the guy grow. I mean, he's shown enough that how many other wide receivers do you have that's in the same category of what he is? And he's not the wide receiver 1 on this team by a long shot. No. It's either Deontay or now George Pickens. So, let it go. It's kind of the same thing that happened with, I like your analogy here of, if teams start concentrating on George Pickens, start focusing on him, he's capable to beat double teams, et cetera, that puts you in the same territory of what Juju Smith-Schuster was able to do with Antonio Brown versus without Antonio Brown. And and then all of a sudden you're going to go, whoa, who is this guy? We were wrong all about this entire time. And good point on Matt Canada too, because I know some of it's game script, but they did very well with a lot of the play calling overall. I didn't like the way that the first half ended. I mentioned that on the podcast, but that was the Kenny throw, and I don't know. That may have been a rookie brain fart. Rolls to the wrong side, didn't see something the right way. Somebody else on the field didn't run. There's always like a mistake somewhere, but I don't know why they were passing the ball to begin with there. They needed to chew some clock. That could have been 3 points that cost them the game at that point with how close that game was. So as long as you don't have those type of hiccups, I think everything else was pretty solid. In the red zone, you want to score in the red zone. It's not always going to happen. And then you didn't even see a run out of the series of 3 plays. You had a short completion to Deontay, who is capable of making a guy miss and might easily take 2 long steps and strides, and he's in the end zone. And it just didn't happen that way. He tried to go after George Pickens. Didn't happen. So I can't necessarily fault the execution. Is more of the problem maybe there versus the idea or the concept. When you're talking about play calls, it's the idea and concept. Then it's up to the players to execute said concept.
And there's again, we talk about complementary play. There's complementary play amongst the receivers, right? Understanding how to run the routes so that you are doing a pick without doing a pick, right? You're causing people to readjust. You're running a route that opens another route. We've talked about Mitch's ability to throw people open or Kenny's ability to throw people open. There's just a lot of adjustment that goes on. Very rarely, I mean, apparently, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs, do you just have receivers running wide open all over the place? Well, there's nobody anywhere near them, or maybe I guess now the Buffalo Bills too. But, for us, that's a growing process, right? There is certainly a chance, and we haven't even talked about Austin coming in. All of a sudden, you add that element of real speed to a receiving group like this, a guy who can legitimately outrun everybody else on the field and stretch that field and put that kind of addition. All of a sudden, the underneath routes open up. There's pieces of the puzzle missing. And once those pieces are all in place, then we'll have a better idea.
Yep, I'm totally with you. I'd be remiss to say that the Dolphins secondary isn't exactly a paradigm of all pros that are back there either. You got Xavier Howard, but Nick Needham, we've already talked about Keon Crossan and Cater Kahu that are backups, and they're already kind of banged up. Noah I'm not going to say his last name because I don't know how. And then Justin Bethel. Well, it's like it could be.
That's all, folks.
I you know what? And shame on me because I've heard it said, but I can't repeat it. That's the problem. Like I hear it, like it was either the radio call or TV call that I was watching. Brandon Jones and Javon Holland are their starting safeties. I think that they could take advantage of this team. They're going to have to because the Dolphins are going to try and look at the blueprint of what every other team has done with the Steelers, and that is force them to make plays in the pass game, shut down the run. And I think the Steelers have an opportunity here against this suspect secondary. And with the way their line's been playing, they haven't given up a whole ton of pressures either. I think without Trey Flowers, I think Melvin Ingram, I don't think a whole lot of Melvin Ingram, to be completely honest. And I don't know who else is going to be banged up and not participating. So if they have a similar problem getting pressure on the quarterback, that's just going to give somebody like Kenny Pickett more time to pick apart the defense, so to speak. Yep. And then the run game will get going with that too. I like the Steelers' odds here. I think this is a game that they have to pick up a win. So, Brian, hey man, thanks for joining us. Be nice to get one more here. What's the bobblehead say?
The bobblehead says, what?
What?
What? The bobblehead says, if Kenny plays, it's a victory.
Yeah. Looks like your finger's saying that, but I would say,
well,
oh my.
The bobblehead, it's not magic. If it's Mitch, he says no.
I'll have to reach back here. I should get the Kenny one, but yeah, we know what it's going to be like. It's just it's designed to do this. It's not designed to do that. So it's just
right.
It's the bobblehead is handicapped, so to speak, to only ever pick the Steelers to win.
Well, no, he did pick them to lose once.
Yeah, well,
did.
I think I would still like to be your finger that was there. All right, folks, that'll do it for us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Here we go. Sunday night football, prime time, Steelers.
See you on Sunday, my friend.
Yeah, I will. It's going to be fun. Hopefully I'm not sweating like a stuck pig. And enjoy some time maybe in South Beach or something while I'm down there. So that'd be fun. It'll be fun. It's going to be an invasion too. There are a ton of Steelers fans prepping to go down there. So it's going to be
just telling you, I'm not going to South Beach with you.
Well,
I'm old.
You're old.
I'll go back to the hotel.
I'm not. Hey, I'm not stripping completely naked, but that would have been a good plug for Manscaped.
Would have been.
All right, folks, that'll do it for us. Thank you for watching or listening wherever you may be. My name's Joe. His name is Brian. And until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.